Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for 14.21. And there were more champions nerfed and buffed in this patch than I can possibly remember. They also changed some systems like Blade and Lethal Tempo. And the question is always, did these buffs and nerfs matter? Or will the champions affected just carry on like nothing changed? As always, we will go over the best junglers for low and high MMR as well as overall. But to apply your champion knowledge to the best jungle practices to climb faster, you absolutely must head to Virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching, coaching classes, a jungle VOD library, special weekly content you'll see nowhere else. All of this available through a premium jungle Discord, which is highly active, a huge community that help each other climb using my jungle program and courses. As we have seen by everybody hitting their peak rank goals in Split 1 and Split 2 of Season 14 as fast as possible. So to climb faster than everybody you know and to jungle diff every game you play, head to Virkayu.gg or click the link in the description below. Alright, on the S tier page we have Graves, and that's purely because, well, they keep buffing him. And then you're like, whoa, they didn't buff Graves this patch. No, they didn't. But what they have done over the past couple of months is change him directly or change his items that benefit him more. Or weaken the stuff around him such that he becomes stronger. Don't forget that when you remove armor growth on something like Viego, that matchup now skews a little bit in Graves' favor. Graves doesn't have MR on his E, thank God. So despite his True Grip passive not really helping him against AP junglers, when they do a little bit less because of the Salt Shoes nerf, that benefits him as well. Those are just two small examples of how win rate data can go up when subtle changes occur. Now you compound those over many months and patches and you make collectors super cheap and affordable. You know, you keep Ghostblade super good for him and you nerf it on Kha'Zix. All of this has now reached this moment where the jungle meta for experience, map control, and how we play is really suited to Graves. He's got solid replicable itemization that's really easy to use. All you gotta do is to get to 2-3 items and people gonna die. You can full clear, you can invade, you can counter jungle, you can gank, you can fist, you can fight. He does absolutely everything that this jungle meta demands, and now he enjoys the matchups a lot more. Second up on this list, we have Nocturne. You know, he's been great this whole year, basically, under the radar, weirdly, even though he's been strong. But he did go through that period where they removed Lethal Tempo and everyone was freaking out, and then they just realized, well, Conqueror is fine and this is good. And it is. And now they buffed Lethal Tempo again, even though it was already good on him, and now he's like, this is very good. This is obviously the new Lethal Tempo. So all of a sudden, the guy's walking around, able to actually auto-attack and fight people earlier, play around his ultimate in a better way. But if you still want to go the, Stryberger, Hexblade, Conqueror, play around your 6, you can. If you want to go the Eclipse build variations, you can. Now, I still recommend people go to Conqueror as a default because it's just more accessible. It does what you want. It stacks it up. Your R hits nice and juicy. When you have the Lethal Tempo, you've got to play a little bit differently. And the pick rate data is pretty high now. Not nearly as high as Conqueror, but it is climbing. And as people get used to it, that will get better as well. It's really about your preference at this point, but Conqueror maintains that slight edge. Next up, we have Viego, and you're thinking, but they nerfed him. Yeah, they nerfed his late game armor with his armor growth. The thing is already quite strong as it is. He builds a lot of variation of resistances as well. And even if he doesn't, he's gonna have a Trinity Force or a Sterix or something like that. He's gonna have a lot of HP as well. So this nerf is really minimal. You know, you will note a little bit less of your kind of scaling in terms of resistance later on, but I honestly think someone who's great at positioning, understands their snowball, is not going to really worry too much about that and won't put themselves in situations where they are really noticing that on a game-to-game basis. You will notice it in those close situations, but it shouldn't be something that you're having every game. Of course, they nerf Blade, but I don't think anybody really cares about that. You got Kraken, Standard Sky Sterix, you got the Trinity Force Flexation. Don't really need to worry too much about nerfed items. Kha'Zix is next, and again, Eternal, always here, the Lord of Assassins, flexing full lethality assassin, and also maybe a little Conqueror ways if you are against a tankier composition. There's always pros and cons to each, but in this case, your Dark Harvest, your First Strike, these are always going to be better, full on lethality, learning how to play with that position as an assassin. This is by far the best. The Conqueror should be saved for more your understanders of Kha'Zix already. Those that are actually savants at his positioning can play around those passives, as well as understanding what Conqueror does in terms of better ADs, healing, sustain in fights, and such. But overall, he really exists in isolation. Yeah, there are rougher matchups, like maybe he doesn't like the Nocturne. Maybe you hate Ivor and Kindred and Warwick, hypothetically. I can understand why you don't like those matchups, but a good jungle Parther will understand how to be on the opposite side, will understand how to access the backline. You don't have to interact with that which you hate. You can simply kill the things and hunt the things you want to, and a good jungler who executes on that is a powerful assassin, and Kha'Zix is a vehicle unto which your wrath shall be delivered. Yeah, don't ask, I'm feeling dramatic. Next one is Nidalee. Now, she fell away in my list last patch because I was like, her data's not that great. She's struggling a little bit to execute, and the VOD reviews and the coaching and the scouting and the playing, I was like, this doesn't It's not igniting anything for me. I don't feel it. In this patch, that is once more changed, and you must remember, again, we say this every video, a champion can go up 1 to 2% just based on what champions are actually being played and how you match up to them. You nerf something like a Viego and a Volibear, and then all of a sudden those champions that hated facing them, they go up in win rate and pick rate because people are like, oh, I'm free, I don't have to suffer. Now, I'm more inclined to tell you that Nidalee is just as good as she was. The Sork Boots nerf do affect you, but obviously that's great for you, right? You're losing less to an Elise, for example. You're worried less about certain counter matchups, and you can deal with the Graves pretty damn well. At the same time, it's just about executing on your tempo. Invades, aggressive pathing, counter jungling, making sure you're not sitting there to be a heal bot at 45 minutes. Your atomization is still good overall, and you're seeing this being played in Worlds because she obviously was in those tier list patches for that one. Yeah, so despite a little bit of a hiccup last patch in terms of what was being played, this patch, statistically at least, she is performing very well again. And honestly, again, now you go with a feel. I'm like, actually, this feels a little bit good. Maybe that was just a bad call last patch, and I'm willing to acknowledge that it does happen. But Nidalee, she do be strong. Skarner, on the other hand, do be extra strong. They nerfed his damage, they said. Yeah, but the guy is unkillable, and he still does a decent amount of damage. Can you feel a little bit more human against him to counter him and play against him? Yes. Do you feel like all hope is gone when he gets fed and all of a sudden he's outpathing you a little bit? You know, still a kinda, but not really in the same way as before. You should feel absolutely fine pathing against a tank. You know he's not going to invade you as much. You know that you can have equal and opposite pressure whenever you like. You also know that if you let it get to the later stages of the game where he isn't killable and ulting you and killing you and being that front line, depending on what champion you're playing, you have to kind of adapt as it were. But the idea is really just to make sure he never reaches that stage. So play it accordingly, atomize with some armor penetration or some magic penetration, and you should have no issue kind of dealing with this matchup in a balanced way, not in a broken OP way. He's strong, he's S tier, but he's not going to run away with it for free elo. Now, Elise is the same kind of thing, but they nerfed her armor. All right, and they nerfed the magic pen brutes. Okay, that sucks. But you're still just gonna carry on because she was absolutely broken last patch. Now she's just strong and good and healthy. Yeah, you notice those little small things over the course of, say, a couple of games you play. You encounter the scenarios where someone lives 1 HP or you die 1 HP. These things happen. Now you know how to actually play around it a bit better and you're gonna acclimate really, really quickly. Overall, it does not change whatsoever the power of this champion. If you are executing your pathing correctly and hitting your cocoons and full swap combo into execute, why does your armor growth really matter unless you are mispositioning or you are not playing the scenarios as well as you should? And that's usually what you need to reflect upon when ranged champions with assassination potential are suffering at the hands of an armor growth nerf. It means she will be squishier when she gets picked later on and you will notice that. But I don't know, just don't be picked. Be the one doing the pick. Yes? Lee Sin is one that is just so damn weird, man. The base AD buffs, he was running away with a win rate at the first part of the patch, and you're just like, man, this is broken, I'm banning it. I'm still banning it. Not because the data is good, but because the champion is good. The data doesn't represent his power. Remember, the data isn't everything. It's about the full picture of what is being provided in the meta with what's being played and how it's being played. Overall, the champion is very, very strong. His skill ceiling and execution still exist. Do not get that wrong. His skill floor has been lowered over many years, and you don't need to be some mechanical god to actually play this champion effectively. Long ago, it was just a diamond plus. Now you can easily play him in gold, platinum, and emerald and actually get to diamond with it without necessarily mastering all his combos and limits. That being said, he is a little bit weaker than we were kind of worrying about, and a lot of matchups can actually deal with him reasonably well. If you are just personally disliking that damage and the snowball and the way you play jungle, then feel free to keep banning it. That's absolutely fine. Still absolutely broken and overpowered in the right hands, but on average, he's just one of the best junglers, but nothing that's gonna make you break the game and rage. We saved that for bot laners dying to Shaku ganks for 15 straight years without learning. And here is Lilia, as I said on the 80 pages, we shuffle on over. They nerfed Faded Ashes, they nerfed her directly. You know, in the end, these things just don't matter for her. She doesn't care. Her kit's just absolutely overloaded with max HP damage, healing, and mobility. She's got CC, she's got true damage, she's got sweet spot damage. She has slows, she has everything she needs to 1v9 climb, and because everything else is also being nerfed, a lot of nerfs as patches, she always ends up benefiting. She may be weaker like in last patch slightly, and then a lot of things are nerfed and she rises up again. Anyway, Kayn is the one that's really interesting here because Rast is so dominating at this point when you're facing tanks like Skarner and things like that, that people really need to start playing him more. Blue Kayn is great, always will be, always has been. 1v9, go your chosen lethality, itemization, and spikes, and you'll have no issue. Remember the Edge of Knights, of course, against CC, but Rast against the tanky boys is incredibly powerful whether you're going more of a damage build or the classical Rast build, something I recommend more of you look at because the champion overall is really great. Alright, I don't know what's wrong with you players, but I'm going to start separating you. Nunu players who build full AP and stupid, and those who build tank or hybrid and actually understand their champion. If you are now copying Inspired's build, please stop. It was terrible. It was horrible. He didn't even know that Kassadin Q cancelled his ultimate. That build was god-awful. Do not run it in solo queue. Just keep going the regular builds. It's balanced, it's powerful, it does everything the champion needs. You do not need to go wacky combinations and die 12 times. You do not need to rush redemption. There's no reason to go out of your way to stop getting LP because Nunu and Willem in the current form are built for LP. Alright, listen up here guys. Karthus, they nerfed his ult by 5% AP ratio, and then, get this, they nerfed his Sork boots. The honest reaction of myself and all Karthus players is, yeah, okay, another Tuesday, so we're gonna carry on. And next up, we have Udyr, who might have the same attitude towards the nerfs he had, except they were a lot more meaningful in terms of his early clear spirit, tempo control, and sequencing. However, we are back to the stage where he is building AD, Bruiser, AP, and shitting on everybody. And he's gonna keep doing that because Udyr is a really strong champion, one of the great reworks we've had in the game, really focusing on that diversity of itemization and playstyles, something they completely whiffed on with Skarner, and I hope to hell they don't do on Shyvana, but considering how slow Riot are doing basically absolutely everything, I'm sure we'll find out by 2027. Zac is a blob. Zac has a lot of damage. Zac is also an unkillable tank. Zac also does very well with Leandries and Sunfire clear speeds. Zac is also really damn good at jungling. Play the champion. Hey look everybody, it's Bel'Veth. It's Bel'Veth, the brain rot champion. Although that has been tempered a little bit, we like that, yes? No more coin flip invades, and she can, but, you know, less powerful. With her, you want that Kraken, you want that Stride, you want 6, you want True Form. You got a path for the first grubs to get True Form. Then you can start invading and playing like the goon that you want to be. The pre-6 has to be a little bit more intelligent from the Bel'Veths. Yes, she can gank and invade, but you know they buffed her sequencing and lavender stacking, right? So it's okay to do a first 2 rotations, only take 1 or 2 ganks that make sense, and then unleash your power, your void, and your offspring upon the map. Think a little bit, win a lot. Now, if you don't want to think, you play Jarvan. You clear, your EQ, your ult, you run around looking boring, you get bored, you ult tab many times, but guess what? You can win. Champion is viable for that. Now over to the low elo page, where Nocturne is an absolute blight of existence in the win rate data. Don't be shocked if you see a nerf in the next patch, just for low elo specifically, not because of any other reason, then lethal tempo works a lot better here. And Nocturne in general just works really, really well here. Just a champion, right? Full sequence, play around ult, take all the grubs and kill stuff. Turn the lights out, split push, team fight, everything you need. Which is very similar to a Mumu, and of course now that he's been nerfed a little bit, he's back to being a low elo Terra. That's fine, because when this thing is strong in Diamond and up and high elo and up, and being banned at Worlds, I can only imagine what he's like in low elo. That being said, the Blade nerfs don't affect Warwick whatsoever. I just coached one of my long-term clients yesterday with Warwick, and he's on a 15-game winning streak. No joke. He didn't read the patch notes. He kept playing. I said, you know, they nerfed Blade, right? And he's like, oh, I didn't notice. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Briar's here, Shyvana's here, as well as Viega. I'm putting Dinah back because her win rate has once more spiked, but also because I think, not just because of the skin so I can put it in a splash shot on the thumbnail, I can understand why you might think that's why I did this, but I didn't. The champion is absolutely phenomenal for learning how to play around ult and sequence and learning how to play an all-in assassin. Because her damage is so absolutely immense, and because her snowball is so absolutely intense, if you can figure out how to get a couple kills around 6 level spike and then start going all in and really figuring out how to actually make the right choices for picks and team fights where you don't go in and die, you're gonna have a lot more success later on playing other assassins that have better mobility for moving in and around fights. These are the best champions for low elo. Now for the Omega high elo squad, all of these champions are great for you as well, but you see the Greys of Viego, the Lee Sin, the Nidalee, Skarner, Elise, Karthus, and Kindred. What's funny is that Kindred was suffering, has had a bit of a quality of life resurgent in the last couple of patches, and is actually hidden OP in a way, but not really OP. It's just they're strong at doing what they've always done. Fighting against melees and tanks, map controlling through a little bit of aggression, snowballing the mark game. They really have a lot of potential at a high level of play. Now, you do obviously need to understand your matchups and your jungling. That's why it's really a high elo pick now, as it always kind of has been. And there are many other champions you can throw in here, including, of course, Bel'Veth. Talia's looking pretty juicy likewise. There are so many high elo great picks that you can use if you are good at jungling. And it's kind of weird that we used to have a lot of champions great for general population, and high elo, I'd be like, well, these 5 are meta. The meta in high elo is almost more diverse all the time now in terms of what you can pilot and execute on the jungle. And that's just a great place to be in, because even if you aren't high elo, you know, hey, if I master the champion and get good at jungling, I can climb and reach it too. But in order to do that, you really need to break your habits tonight.
Go on, click the video, break your habits. Do it. I command it. Do it.